Hi everyone, this is Darren with SimNation. Just doing a preview video for the 2058 season for WWPF, which of course is our Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2026 league here at SimNation. It is one of the older ones around, and we're entering into what is sure to be a really interesting season. So without further ado, the team to beat this year is probably going to be Carolina. Shouldn't come as a shock to anybody. Invisible has really built a dynasty now, and he only got stronger in the offseason. We'll talk about that in a moment. But like usual, I'm just going to go through this pretty quickly and talk about each of the divisions and kind of how I see them stacking out for this season. If you look at, we're starting the AFC this year, and we'll start down at the bottom. Uh, in the West, it's still Oakland's to lose. Prince, of course, is at Denver, and I think that he should bounce back this season. Last year was a little bit of an anomaly for him. But I do expect Oakland to win this. If you're looking to join our league, definitely I would take a strong, long, hard look at Oakland. They used to have a very, very uh, godlike owner in Peter. Peter, of course, moved on for a bunch of different reasons. But other teams that you might want to look at is Kansas City and San Diego. Really, the only two teams that have the potential to make the playoffs this year is Oakland and Denver. Oakland probably has a divisional champ. Denver probably has a wild card. The East is pretty stacked when you think about it. Buffalo is a CPU team, another good team to take if you're interested. But at Miami, we have Soa, New York, we have Cav, and New England, we have Shark. Three really good coaches in the same division. New York is experiencing a renaissance of a sort. Large part of that has to do with Kev has completely redid that roster. And now not only are they an offensive juggernaut, but they're slowly becoming a defensive juggernaut too. Um, can't really look past Miami. Miami has a pretty stacked roster as well. And I'll show you a little bit more detail about that in a bit. But they're led by Marcus Witten, who is an experienced quarterback. They've got depth all over the place. They have a pretty good defense as well. New England, I think this New England, the highest they're going to go this year is probably make it to the playoffs as a wild card, um, which will be a little bit hard when you're in a division where at least two of these teams are going. New England could be the third. I think that Shark had a good offseason, but I think he's still maybe a season away from being the competitive New England squad that we're used to. And it's no offense to Shark. Shark is what I would consider an A or an S tier coach. Um, so it's just he's got to rebuild. It's something that I'm going to have to do in Pittsburgh here shortly as well. When we get to the South, the team of consequence is Tennessee. All the other teams are CPU. So if you want to join, this AFC South is a good place to be. Indianapolis has a really good roster. Jacksonville's okay. Houston is probably the team you'd want if you want to be competitive right away. But this is really going to be Tennessee's to lose. That's Bama. Bama's done a phenomenal job with Tennessee. I think the only knock on Tennessee is they start a little bit slow and then they gain momentum throughout the season. So we'll see how that plays out. But I fully expect them to win the division. And outside of whoever wins the division, no one else from the South is probably making the playoffs. In the North, you have Pittsburgh, who is the team to beat. And probably will be the team to beat again this year, mostly just because they have a good solid core, although it's aging, and they're about a year away from a rebuild. The team to keep an eye on that will compete with Pittsburgh throughout the season is Bio Eagles Cleveland. Cleveland is a really good roster. Expect some pretty good things out of Cleveland throughout the season. And we'll take a look there as well. Cincinnati, Baltimore, these are two CPU teams. Baltimore's the better of the two. I think Baltimore's starting to age like Pittsburgh, and I don't expect them to be as brutally hard to beat as they have in the past. Cincinnati, of course, will probably be competing for the top draft pick in this year's draft. Moving over to the NFC, the Green Bay Packers are on CPU, but the teams to watch here are Detroit, Chicago, and Minnesota. I think that Detroit probably is going to be the team to beat. Keep an eye on Chicago, though. I think Cotton had a pretty good draft. And then Minnesota's Starfinder, as soon as he can get his feet under him and kind of make the transition from the college game to the pro game, I do expect that he will likely start moving up the ranks. Right now, I think Chicago is going to be the team to beat in this. Minnesota could compete for a playoff, but again, I think they're a year or two away from that. Excuse me. In the South, all roads lead through Charlotte. The Carolina Panthers. This is Invisible Witness, who is an S-tier coach, and he's proven it over the course of the seasons. Some of his natural competition has left, but this is going to be the team to beat this year. Um, Tampa Bay has MBB Mets. I think Tampa Bay's continue to just get stronger and stronger. They will start competing with Carolina. And then Atlanta and New Orleans are two CPU teams. Atlanta probably the better of the two. New Orleans had a good draft, but if they got a human owner, I think that they actually would be pretty decent. And then comes the East, which is pretty stacked as well. The team to beat here, I still think, is Dallas with Templar. Keep an eye on Washington with Udo and New York with DWK. You could see two, maybe three teams go to the playoffs from this division alone. They've all three, I think, had solid drafts. I still think that there's a talent differential between Dallas and the rest. Although I think New York has closed it, and if Udo can get off to a good, strong start, I think he should really make some noise. Philadelphia's on CPU. I don't expect much out of them. And that brings us to the West, where I think the two teams to keep an eye on this season are going to be Arizona and San Francisco. Arizona, Simon, San Francisco, Stuart. Stuart is a really good coach. With Barry no longer at Los Angeles, he may have some easier times ahead with trying to get through that really brutal West division. But keep an eye on Simon. Simon, year over year, has really done well. And I think Arizona's on the cusp of making a deep playoff run. If you're interested in this league, Los Angeles is the team to look at because they were coached by a really good coach in Barry. And then you have Seattle, who is on CPU as well. So, at a high level, if I go through this and I think the number one seed is Carolina. I just don't see anybody taking that from them this season. I think number two seed is going to be probably San Francisco. I do think that Dallas is going to win it, but I'll make a controversial pick. I think New York wins the East this season. And then up in the North, I think Chicago takes the North. Probably just gave all those guys the kiss of death. So that'll be the four teams. And then the wild card teams are definitely going to be like Tampa Bay and then either Arizona, New York, or Dallas, depending on who wins what. Um, when you shift over to the AFC, I think the number one seed is going to be New York. Kev's got a monster of a team, kind of reminiscent a little bit of Peter with his teams. I think Pittsburgh probably wins the North. It'll probably be the last time that happens for a while, only because Pittsburgh's got to really start rebuilding because most of their key players are now hitting the age of 30, where the game will start nerfing them pretty hard. Keep an eye on Cleveland, though. Tennessee should win the South, and then in the West, it's probably going to be Oakland. I think the wild card teams are here probably going to be Cleveland, Miami are the two. Look for New England and Denver to get into that conversation, and then we'll see how that pans out. And then I think the Super Bowl is really likely going to be a repeat of last year. It'll be New York versus Carolina. Maybe Kev will be able to get past Invisible. Invisible is just the type of coach who can game plan very, very well. When we look at the teams, just going through quickly, if you look at Pittsburgh, and I do apologize because this is week one, uh, you can't see anything. You can see here Pittsburgh has a really good, solid core. Again, it is a defensive team. But the challenge that Pittsburgh has is if you look at the age here, um, they're getting older and not really younger. Plummer's a good person. Henderson's good. They've gotten Knight, who's also good. They have a good defense. But when you look at most of their contributors on offense, they are getting old. Um, we look at Arizona again. Lots of good things to say about Arizona. They are a younger team. They are not going to get hammered by the age Hamler very much. They have a really good young quarterback in early, but Payne is the bread and butter. And then they have a decent running attack as well. I'm going to skip over CP teams. This is Carolina, and you can see why I'm kind of bullish on them. I mean, they have two quarterbacks who would be starters anywhere. Actually, I could make an argument for three. They have a good rushing game. He's just reloaded year over year, and that's one of the reasons why. And unlike other teams, they have a very good defense as well. They're not semi-dimensional. I mean, sorry, one-dimensional. I'm high on Cotton because Cotton has done a good job of drafting some folks. He's got Pearson, who, if he starts at quarterback and can stay healthy, should definitely help. The running game maybe not as good as the rest of it, but definitely he's got solid options all throughout the offense and defense. And that's one of the reasons why I think he's going to make a run. I'm very high on Cleveland. The problem with Cleveland is everybody gets hurt. And you can kind of see it right here. One of the reasons why McKnight is a really, really good quarterback. The main problem with him is keeping him healthy, and then that will bring in Jorgensen, and you have a large drop between the two. But he's got great weapons. Bio has a really good defense as well, which should help him. But the main thing that's going to really define their season is McKnight's ability to stay healthy. They are a completely different team without him. Like last year, we made the playoffs, and just the sheer amount of injuries, kind of knocked them out earlier than they probably should have been. Dallas has O'Malley, who's a really good quarterback. They also picked up Merriman, who's one of the better running backs. Don't read too much into overall, but Merriman is a generational running back. So if Templar can harness all of that, I see them making a pretty deep run. And then if we go out to Denver, what you'll see here is they have Mojica, who's actually pretty good, and especially in Prince's system. Prince likes to throw the ball and run the ball. He has a very balanced offense, and if he can get that going, he's going to have a really great season. I think the thing that's really plagued Prince the most has been his secondary, especially against people like Oakland and some of the teams he has to play. But he picked up Bud Negrete, who used to be at Pittsburgh. It's a strong pickup because you get one of the fastest cornerbacks in the league, as well as he has Emmanuel Cruz, who's another fast one. So maybe the defense for him, the key is going to be his defense has got to be solid. And if it's not, it's going to really hurt him. Shifting to Miami, you can see why I'm kind of high on Miami. They have Witten. You could make an argument they don't have much behind Witten. Weems has never really been a great quarterback, but they do have Carr, and I think Carr's really could step in a pinch. He's got really good running backs between Farrell and Erickson. And then you look at the offensive line. The offensive line is really good. By the way, WWPF is an offensive league. So if you're looking for a defensive league, this probably is not the league for you. I am trying to get the calibration right for the right level of things, but at this point, I'll use the term, it's like steering a ship. It's going to take a few seasons because when I calibrate and try to reduce speed or reduce agility or something like that, you won't see the actual impact for like another 2 or 3 seasons. But there's a lot to be high on Miami. They do have a good defense as well. I think their defense is a little slower than I would like. Their secondary definitely is going to be hard to deal with, but when you get into the linebacking core, I think be the main differentiation between them and like the Jets. Starfinder, again, rebuilding the team, and that takes some time. He's got some pieces of the pie, but he's still really lacking a quarterback, a game-changing quarterback. He does have a game-changing running back, but it's just going to take him some time to continue to rebuild this as long as he stays on the right path to doing so and getting the right players to fit into a system. So I don't look for them to do excessively well this season. But I do think he's going to have the right foundation for really good seasons afterwards. New England, Shark is a really, really good coach. I think the problem he has is on paper, a lot of these people look good. I think the challenge that he's running into is the same challenge that teams have had in the East traditionally with New York. Is New York, whether it is Kev or whether it was Parm, they are really, really fast. And you've got to have a fast secondary, and you've got to be able to play deep zones and stuff like that to be able to offset their speed. And that means fast safeties as well. And I think that's harmed him on the defensive side. I think on the offensive side is he still doesn't have a trigger man. Shank is just not that guy. He's got good running backs between LaFleur, Milligan, and Johnson. He has a pretty good offensive line, although there's some areas where it could be better. And I think that that's the main differentiation why Miami and New York have surged in front of him. DWK has done a very good job of putting together a team. Don't like the depth though, but he's got two quality quarterbacks, so if one goes down, he's not going to lose a season over it. He's got a good running back in Boudreaux, and he's got solid lines. Definitely should be able to compete. The secondary's got some speed in it, which is what you want. Maybe not as much speed as you want. And then what you'll see is his linebacking core is going to continue to be a weakness this season. So that could hurt him, but I do have expectations that they are challenging for the playoffs. For the Jets, kind of getting tired of talking about how great Kev has been doing here, but he has. Now, the challenge for the Jets is this, is if Herman stays healthy, they're going to have a really good season. If Herman gets hurt, they're not going to have a good season. They probably will still make the playoffs because Kev will probably do what like I would do when I lose my quarterback. I go to a running game, and he's got solid options in Murphy and Whiteman. His line is really decent. He's got the depth he needs to have in many regards. Maybe center could be a little bit better. But as you can see here, he's got speed all over the place. Torres is just a monster, and he's only getting worse as he gets older. So you've got to have speed to defend. Now, the one thing that will allow teams to probably compete with the Jets is our secondary doesn't really have speed. And that will allow for you to potentially take them on if you have speed. But what you're going to end up is in a shootout. And if that's the case, then you just have to be able to score more points than them or at least get a few critical stops. I have an idea of how I'm going to play Kev this year. I didn't do it in preseason because I didn't want to give it away. But I'm also not going to share it broadly with people just because I don't want people using that against Kev. Pittsburgh, this is what I'm talking about. Pittsburgh is getting older. They have a good quarterback in Pierce, but he's now 30 and going to get hit with the Nerf hammer. Lackey's already getting hit with the Nerf hammer, but they have London, of course. They have a solid line. They have a solid defense. Their defense is probably one of the best in the league. They don't always play that way, but I think, as you can see here, is they have actual speed that they can bring to bear pretty quickly. Even running linebackers and like nickel dime packages and stuff that will help them compete. But there's still a speed differential when you talk about like New York and Carolina. The receivers are faster than whatever corners Pittsburgh has. And that's the same for most teams, by the way. San Francisco, this may be Stuart's year. Ace is only getting better as he gets older at the quarterback. As long as he stays healthy, they should be good. Chilton can come in a pinch. I think what's been missing from Stuart is, and he had this when he had Ford, is a game-changing running back to help take some of the pressure off the passing game. You can see here he's got a decent secondary. His linebacking core is pretty good. His line is good. This is a team that can definitely make some noise, and they did last year before, I forget who they ran into. They knocked off Barry twice, which was pretty impressive. But when you look at Tampa Bay, same thing here is MBB Metz has done a really good job of building the team. I think the challenge is, again, at quarterback, he is more of a, well, he's got the quarterbacks he can play whatever style he wants. And he's got a good running back. I think the biggest issue with Tampa Bay has been their defense, and they sit in the same division as Carolina. I think you can't look past that. So if MBB Metz is going to start making some noises, he's got to take some games from Carolina. Tennessee with Bama, again, Bama is one of those teams that outperforms what they have on paper. And a large part of that is associated with Bama's ability to coach. You can see that if I were looking at this, I might not give them high marks but this is a team that traditionally overachieves. The receivers are not as fast as I like, but he's repeatedly really done well with turning that around. The secondary is good against the South and most of the AFC. The teams that they'll run into trouble with is like New York, Pittsburgh, um, probably Miami. Those are the teams that I would worry about, as well as Cleveland if they're healthy. But I expect Bama to make a pretty big run this year. And then there's Udo at Washington. He's got a really good quarterback in Newman. It's one of the first times in a while he's had a good quarterback. Marquise is a great running back. His line could be a lot better. I think his line is actually what's going to hold him back this season from winning, making his way to the playoffs. But all in all, it's a really good team. So that's kind of the preview. Sorry if I was a little bit long-winded, but just wanted to kind of put that out there. Any questions, let me know. If you're interested in joining the league, the links are on the video, and hope to see you all soon.